Hi, my name is Brandon, but you can call me Big Z, and today I'm talking about one of my favorite comic book and graphic novel authors, Brian K. Vaughan. I read a lot of comic books when I was younger, and when I was in high school, I would go to my local comic book shop called America's Most Wanted Collectibles. It was run by a guy named Joe. And I spent a lot of time there playing Magic the Gathering and other gaming stuff. And when I was there, I'd always buy whatever comics looked cool and that were interesting to me. And I've always loved comic books. But eventually, around the end of high school or at college, I stopped going. I stopped buying comics, stopped reading comics. Every once in a while, I would check out, graphic novel. But, I mostly, if I was going to read something, I would just read books when I wasn't studying or playing video games. However, a couple of years ago, one of my favorite authors, Patrick Rothfuss, he has a Goodreads page where he reviews and recommends different books and stuff. And he recommended and reviewed this comic series called Saga. It was like Volume 1 and Volume 2, I believe. It was written by Brian K. Vaughan, and the description of the book and because of how he reviewed it, it seemed incredibly interesting. So, I went to Amazon and ordered the first volume and absolutely loved it. Like, it had been like nothing I'd ever read. And it's just so excellent that, I immediately ordered volume 2. And then when I blasted through that, I was like, okay, what now? I wanted to read more, but I would have to wait like a couple months for the next volume to come out. So I decided that I would try to look around, see if there are any local comic book shops, and try to get the single issues for the series. So when I looked up my local comic book shops, to my delight, my old hangout was still in existence. It moved around a bit throughout the years, but it was still in my little town. So I traveled to America's Most Wanted and picked up all the issues that they had. Although sadly I found out that the early issues, especially number 1, are worth a lot now. And it also led me to a bunch of other series because of how good it was. And at this time, there were a lot of great new series being put out by Image Comics and Marvel, which around the same time was doing these new runs of characters and new characters that were excellent, like mainly She-Hulk, Miss Marvel, and Silver Surfer. And it got me back into reading comics like weekly, and I just absolutely love it now. And the love that Brian K. Vaughan brought back to my life of comics, it was continued, and I'm still currently going every week to my local comic book shop. Although now the store has passed from Joe onto some of his former employees, and they changed the name of the store, the Comic Shop LLC. And they're trying to do a lot of different new things with social media and and figures, and there's a lot of cool things interacting with all the local businesses and everything, and they're all great guys. Brian K. Vaughan was born in 1976 in Cleveland, Ohio. And as an early child, he and his brother were huge fans of Peter David and his long run on The Incredible Hulk. So after graduating from St. Ignatius High School in 1994, he attended New York University studying film. While there, Vaughan took a comic book writing class called Marvel Comics Stan Hatton Project, which it led to his first writing credit for Marvel's Tales from the Age of Apocalypse #2. So in 1996, what followed has been an outstanding career where he's written for multiple popular characters and has created a ton of his own completely original characters and stories. He's worked under pretty much all of the major publishing houses throughout his career. So Brian currently has a wife and 2 kids and a dachshund named Hamburger, which he often mentions in the Saga letter columns. And, he's mostly shied away from social media, which is kind of odd in this day and age, especially if like you're a person in the public eye at all. But it's really great that he doesn't even accept emails for his letter columns. Like if you want to send him a letter, you have to like type it out or write it out and send it to him. And I think it's kind of cool, especially even kind of like some of his saga. Like every yearly or so, he writes a questionnaire that you can fill out, and if you actually rip it out of the comic book, which is kind of like horrible, like for a lot of people to think about. But if you rip it out and fill it in with a pen and send that in, you get entered into a drawing to win free stuff from him. And it's kind of cool. He seems like a really cool guy. And I really think that he brings out the best in all of his artists. Like his writing is superb and original, and he has excellent ideas for every different comic series. And the dialogue is great, and all the character development is the best in the business. But something about him, like I don't know if because he's such because of his name, if all the best artists want to work with him, or if he's like good at picking the artist for the job, or what. But something about every artist is different for each of his books, and he stays with that artist like pretty much throughout the whole time, and he brings out the best in each artist. And I think it's something to it. He doesn't, as a warning, he does not pull any punches in his comics. Because, I mean, you will see a lot of different things. Like he is not, except for Runaways and some of his other Marvel books, like he is not an all ages sort of comic writer. Like he'll comics will have sex in it. They'll have brutal gore and death and violence and swearing, but like it's adult. Like there's no limits on what he does, and that's what I think. He does a lot of stuff with Image, especially now. Like he's worked with pretty much everyone else previously. But I really think that Image kind of lets him do whatever he wants with his books, and the proof is in the pudding. Like how when you do that, like what amazing things you can get from it. And really, if you're looking for any like new comic, if you see Brian K. Vaughan's name on it, you can know this is gonna be good. Like nothing that I read from him has been bad. I mean, some of the stuff may not be as good as some of his other stuff, but he puts so much heart into everything he writes and to his projects that is the best, things in the comic book world, like especially modern day. So he's done a lot of work with Marvel Comics throughout the years, and he especially worked a lot with the X-Men and in their world. He's had some excellent runs with them. And he's written for many different characters, including Cable, Wolverine, Cyclops, Mystique. And he did a lot with the Ultimate X-Men. He had like a 1 or 2 year run with them. I think they're collected in like volume 5 and 6 in the graphic novel versions. And he's worked for other characters too under Marvel, including Captain America, Spider-Man, The Hood, and Doctor Strange. And his Doctor Strange book is The Oath, and it's a really good, like almost like a little one-off graphic novel story that includes a bit more of an intro to his character. And I really think that the Doctor Strange movie in the MCU, was based heavily on that run with Doctor Strange, like the whole car crash causing his injuries and having to like a lot of that stuff is in that book. And even like the nurse or doctor characters in that book too, although it's slightly different. But it's a really excellent way to get into the Doctor Strange character. And if you like that, then you can go. There's new runs with Doctor Strange which are excellent. That continue ongoing right now, and I would highly recommend. His most notable contribution to Marvel, though, has to be the Runaways. And, this was from 2006 to 2007. And it was originally only supposed to be a limited run. But after its huge success, like he continued on for a bit. Like it's collected in 3 large graphic novels. And it's really an excellent all ages story. That I really, probably the only one that I would recommend for all ages. Like if you're under 18, like you should go and you want to read Brian K. Vaughan, but maybe your parents don't want to see you reading stuff like Saga, you try Runaways. And it's a great idea for a story because the whole idea is that almost all of the superhero characters, they always put something in the artifact of what the age that they were created in or what. But pretty much every character has an awesome parents that were killed when they were young, and that they became a hero to try to honor them, and they try to be good to honor them. I mean, every teenager at some point in their life has hated their parents at least a little bit, and it's kind of so odd that they hold every hero holds their parents in such esteem. And Brian K. Vaughan kind of turned on their head, where what if a group of heroes' parents were douchebags? What if their parents were supervillains? What would you do if your parents would get together like a couple times a year, and one of those times you went sneaking and you saw them murder a young girl and steal her soul for some evil purpose? Would you try to turn them in? Would you try to stop them? Would you turn evil too? Like, what would you do? And in this book, it's really cool where, like, each one kind of has to, it's kind of like a coming of age, like, when they go searching for, like, what's going on with their parents, they unlock their powers, or they get, like, weapons and things that they can use to be superheroes. And each one has a different thing. They had the one parent and the kid is a mutant. The one parent and kid that's kind of like just a human, but like a tactician, like a kingpin like sort of character. And you have like the magicians or sorcerers, and you have the time travelers, and you have the evil scientists. And it's kind of a really kind of cool little thing that that group that they form is like a really cool, like little, almost like young Avengers, like before you get to see them grow all together. And one thing I will say that some of the teenage stuff can be a little goofy, like that's the whole love interest and things. But it is what it is, and I don't mind that. But the one thing is too that for if you're a teenager reading this now, it's from 2006, 10 years ago, so a lot of the references are different, like it shows its age a little bit, but I think it still holds up really well, and still a great comic book, still a great series. Brian has had also a decent run with DC Comics, but I haven't read any of them, but I know he's worked with Wonder Woman, Batman, the Titans, Young Justice, Green Lantern, and Superman. I think I might actually check out the Batman series. It seems like they have coming up a collected Brian K. Vaughan Batman graphic novel coming out, I think in March or something like that. So I might check it out then. Although it's kind of like a lot of stuff he wrote here are in the middle of other series. So it's tough when you have that, whether you want to go from the beginning or just read his take on the characters. But I might try to look out for that in the future. Vaughan has had a long run and a great career with Vertigo. And for them he wrote Volume 3 for Swamp Thing in the year 2000, like relatively early. And with artists Roger Pearson and Giuseppe Camunculi. And Swamp Thing is one of my cousin Andy's favorite series, but I've never gotten around to reading it. But I need to get to it eventually. He also published a beautiful and excellent graphic novel for them called The Pride of Baghdad. And that's behind my head. I don't think you can see it too well. But it's this excellent little thing where it kind of reminded me of Animal Farm, where these pride of lions in the Baghdad Zoo, are there, and they're trying to talk to people, to the antelope and other animals, trying to figure out how they could escape the zoo. And then all of a sudden, the Iraq War starts. and America starts bombing everything, and including the zoo. It's really an interesting story, but I mean, it's graphic, but the art is gorgeous. The art's by Nico Henrichen, and like it's really amazing. And again, like it doesn't pull any punches, but I mean, it's like the Lion King if it was in the zoo and the war was going on. Like, it's really beautiful and really well done. But he's probably one of his Brian K. Vaughan's most known for under Vertigo and possibly in the comic world is for his series Y the Last Man. This series went from 2008 to 2011, and this he works with artist Pia Guerrera, and this post-apocalyptic epic where every being on Earth with a Y chromosome simultaneously dies, except for our main character, Yorick Brown, and his male Capuchin monkey called Ampersand. So, after this happens, society has obviously been plunged into chaos, because of the death of so many people, along with the unending depression that would accompany knowing that unless some miracle happens, the world of humanity is over. And almost all of the animals on Earth will become extinct within a generation. Yorick is an unemployed amateur magician or escape artist, and he's the son of a U.S. senator who probably is now the highest-ranking person in government, because most of everyone else were males above her, including the president, vice president, and everyone underneath him. And also, that the thing is that anyone that was traveling with a male driving, so all the planes in the world or anything like that, when they died, a lot of the planes would probably crash, and a lot of people would die, not just men. So the story mainly features Yorick, his monkey, a secret agent named 355, and a geneticist, Dr. Allison Mann, traveling the decaying world in search of a cure for something, because not only was all the beings with the Y chromosome killed, even the sperm frozen, all of it that was male, all of it carrying the Y chromosome was destroyed or killed, or is not viable. They're also searching for Yorick's fiance, and everywhere they go, the female survivors, they either want to steal Yorick or they want to kill him and finally put an end to the world of men. And it's an excellent long-run series. It has, I believe, 6 big graphic novel versions of it, collected editions. And the art isn't quite as good as some other art, but it's still really detailed and really cool. And the story is really interesting, and a lot of crazy things happen. And I would highly recommend it. It's an excellent series to start. So after Y the Last Man, I think Vaughan, was searching for a new partner for his comics, and he found Image. And their partnership has been just the best thing for comics, at least for me, because they've really let him have completely free reign with whatever he wanted to do. And what he wants to do with his art, who he wants to hire, his schedule, everything. It's just he's free to do whatever he wants. Even what's so cool is that it started out Saga is $2.99 for each comic, and that's pretty much as cheap as comics are, unless you're buying reissues of old comics for $1 or something like that. And any other comic, be it such a big popular release, they make it $3.99 or $4.99 or anything, but it's still $2.99 every month, every release. And yes, because that's what he wants. So starting in 2002, Saga was born. And as I said earlier, Saga is what got me back into reading comics, and is one of the main ongoing series that have me returning to my local comic book shop every week. It takes place in a science fantasy universe where like some people like to call it a mix between Star Wars and Game of Thrones. But I see that idea, but it's a little different. But it's kind of a cool comparison. But in this universe, the galaxy is in constant war, all deriving from a planet and its moon. So, long ago, the anesthetic, magical moon race, the Resians, and the technologically advanced planet race, the Landfallians, realized that, if their war between each other continued, it would result in the destruction of both of their worlds. Like, it could not continue. They had to do something. So instead of having peace, they decided that the war would continue, but on all of their colony worlds throughout the galaxy, and they would not attack each other's worlds. Before the start of issue 1 of the comic book, there's main characters are Alana from Landfall. She was a winged prison guard, and she meets Marco from Wreath, and he is a pacifist, horned prisoner, and they somehow fall in love, and they escape the prison, and they become pregnant. But let's just say that the powers that be do not like that. They view their child as an abomination, and the child, who is later called Hazel, and is actually the narrator for most of the comic series. So both of the worlds send multiple assassins to eliminate the problem couple and their progeny. And one of the assassins you mainly follow is called the Will, and he has this really cool partner called the Lion Cat. And the Lion Cat, his partner, he kind of can tell when anyone is lying. It's kind of like a hairless, like Egyptian cat, but gigantic. And like, every single side character is just so interesting. But as a warning, I will say that some of the side characters, and their lives are at risk throughout the series. So don't get too tied into them. And really every character, even if a character has plot armor, stuff will happen to him. And his writing in this series is perfectly married with the best art I've ever seen in the comic book, and that's from the artist Fiona Staples. And her art is gorgeous, and there's really nothing quite like it. It's so perfect and detailed and original and just gorgeous. The warning, her gorgeous art also shows it can get very graphic, including gay, straight, alien on alien sex. It's a lot of detailed sex scenes, along with very detailed, horrific violence at times. And the series can also be slightly frustrating at times, again because characters may die or may be changed, and there isn't a huge overarching story in sight other than just their lives. But at the same time, I love that. I love that single issue. You never know what's going to happen. You never know where they're going to go. But and I really recommend, if you're not easily offended, I think everyone should give Saga a try. It's amazing, and I love it, and I wish more people would read it. It's such a impressive story and art. Vaughan has also did an excellent short run series called We Stand on Guard, and it's one of the best short run comic series I've read in a while. And his art is again married with an excellent artist. This time Steve Skroce. The artist had an excellent run with Cable X-Men, Amazing Spider-Man, Youngblood, and Gambit. But before this comeback, he'd been working for years as a storyboard artist, mainly for the Wachowskis, on all of their movies. And when he came back for this series, Brian K. Vaughan searched him out, and got him for it, and the art is excellent. This is one of the most original futuristic stories I've seen. It's set like around 100 years in our future, and in this time, America has invaded Canada for their natural resources, mainly their clean water. And the story follows these Canadian freedom fighters, or like America would view them, terrorists, and they have to try to stop America from taking everything from Canada, and even though it's almost impossible because they're just a few people and they're going against such a superpower, with which America now has these gigantic drones and their army. A lot of the futuristic things are really interesting, really cool. And again, it's very graphic, but it's really an excellent short series that's collected now in one graphic novel, I believe. Paper Girl is another excellent ongoing series with Image Comics from Brian K. Vaughan. And it features a group of paper girls that get caught in some sort of time war going on. And it's between people riding dragons and speaking an almost unintelligible version of English versus mutants speaking something like Chinese and carrying around a futuristic looking cube with an Apple computer's logo on it. The artist is Cliff Chang, and I love like all the designs of all the characters and all the crazy things that happen. And this one is slightly more all age friendly, but maybe not quite all the way. But it's not as adult as his other series. I currently have really no idea where the series is going, but I'm enjoying every single issue that comes out. And I'm really looking forward to where they go with this story, because it's getting a little timey-wimey. Like they're going all like they're trying to run away from everyone. They go in different times, and it's really cool. I mean, like different versions of especially the one character, like from different times, and maybe even the clone. You're not really sure what's going on there. There's a lot of cool things with that, and I would definitely recommend it. Brian's also worked with Dark Horse Comics. And he wrote a few issues of Buffy the Vampire Slayer in 2007, and he wrote this cool little short series. It's collected a graphic novel now, The Escapists, which is about the kind of like a love letter to the golden age of comics, and what it takes to be successful in the comic book industry. And he's also worked with Wildstorm Comics, which was an imprint under DC Comics, and which was disbanded in 2010. But under them, he wrote the cool series Ex Machina, and it's kind of an interesting story where it reminds me slightly more of Mark Millar, like his kind of story, where it's almost like an alternate history sort of thing, where this character got superpowers from some sort of object underneath the Brooklyn Bridge, I think, and it gave him power over any machine, any technology. He can like talk to it and tell it what to do. And it's kind of cool that and this is around like he got around the late 90s, 2000s, so he was around for 9/11, the terrorist attacks, and the idea that if a superhero was there. Like, no one could have stopped the first plane hitting the tower, but they definitely could have stopped the second plane from hitting. That's what happens. That like it's a really weird imagery, where there's an image of like the one tower standing and the lights for where the other tower was, and because of that happening, but we still go to war with Afghanistan and Iraq, and everything still happens, but it's slightly different. And this basically is about him. He's given up the hero thing, and he thought he could do more as a mayor of New York. And there's a lot of like interesting stuff with that. But I don't love it as much as some of his other series, but it's definitely a cool read. And as if Brian K. Vaughan didn't have enough on his plate, he's also started this panel syndicate, which is an online comic publisher that has really created to publish DRM-free webcomics, mainly from Brian K. Vaughan and the artist Marcos Martin. And that main comic was The Private Eye. And it's really an incredibly interesting book. But, after that, he's also, they've helped release a lot of other small comics from multiple different languages, through that site. But The Private Eye, I definitely recommend. I know in digital form, it's really pay what you want. Like, you can pay whatever you want to get the digital comic. But I don't like reading digital comics as much as I do having it in the physical form. And they released the physical form, I think it's over my head right there, where it's really cool because it's, the standard format is, like that, but this one is like this instead. It's kind of on its side. And I think it allows it to do a lot of interesting things. Like, it's different reading it, but it's really cool. So it's another story set in the future. And Brian K. Vaughan has so many interesting ideas for ways the future could happen. But in this one, in our near future, the internet cloud bursts. And everyone's private data, their search histories, everything they ever posted or wrote online, everything they typed in, every website they went to is everywhere. Like, you can look for anyone up and find out everything that they did. And this kind of crashed the world, kind of like in South Park the last season. But it kind of, after that, it kind of changed everything. It completely once got rid of the internet, and it changed it so that every single person has a secret identity that they choose when they graduate high school and turn 18. And everyone wears a mask whenever they're outside. They only take their mask off when they're at home. And it's such a really different idea of what could happen, and it's really cool. But the main character it's called a private eye, but he's also a paparazzi, like a PI. It's really kind of cool. They could play on everything, and that he'll go find people or find out things. But it's kind of a classic noir private eye story too, because in one of his people that come to try to, she's looking to what he can dig up on herself. She's going for a new job or something. But right after she hires him with his code name on her hand, she's murdered. And so now he has to, find out why she was murdered and everything that happens. It's really cool. It's really trippy. And again, the art is gorgeous and the story is so interesting that I would highly recommend checking it out. And that's pretty much all of his work in comics. And like I said, if you see his name on a comic book, check it out. But he's also written multiple episodes in seasons 3, 4, and 5 of the TV show Lost. He wrote the 2013 TV adaptation of the Under the Dome, and he's written a couple of screenplays, mostly for his comics, like Why the Last Man, Ex Machina, Runaways, along with a screenplay for Round Table. And none of them have really developed much, and I try to think what I would love to see from him, in the movie or a TV show. And even, as much as I love Saga, it would not work as really a movie. I think it'd be too expensive to do as a TV show. But I mean, I think from Panel Syndicate, the Private Eye comics, I think could be a really interesting movie. Why the Last Man, along with the Runaways, I think we could make excellent TV shows. And I think they're actually working on a TV show for the Runaways, which it could be really cool. I think it could also work as a movie, like the original thing, kind of a one-off, away from all the big ones. But I think they're probably going the TV route instead. So to sum everything up and end this long video, I would highly recommend any comic book written by K. Vaughan, especially Saga, Paper Girls, and Why the Last Man. To, anyone that might even have an inkling that they might enjoy reading a good graphic novel. So, thanks for watching, and if you enjoy the video, you can subscribe to my channel. I review movies weekly, And I try to talk about a favorite author monthly. And you can check out my playlist and my other videos around my head. And thanks for watching.